There's a lady who shines in the light. I close her eyes, my soul unites. The rain stops into the night. I walk the shadows of the moonlight. When the time is right and the stars shine bright, I'll kiss my lady through the night. Oh, my lady, do you hear all those whispers in your ear? I walk the shadows of the moonlight. Stars stuck in time. It always seems to seem alright. My thoughts inside, I miss it day and night. There's only one reason to stay up all night. Shadows of the moonlight. I'm slipping away, it's almost time. Take my hand, my lady, please don't cry. Hold me forever until I die. Don't be lonely, I'm by your side. I walk in the shadows.
Good afternoon or evening, whatever it is, whenever I time this for. Um, this is a video. It is not live. It's a premiere, so there is live chat. So yeah, I might be there. I might not. Um, More than likely not, but you never know. Well, today is going to be an interesting one to start out with because I have to say some things first before we really get into what this video is about. Um, we're on a Tuesday night show and had a couple guests on, which was the first time in a long time I had a couple guests. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that when I have guests on, and I'm thinking of doing this every Tuesday, okay, that the channel, my producers and I don't always agree with what the panelists think or are trying to represent. But we need to listen to all sides. Sometimes people get things wrong. I get things wrong. It's not a big deal to be wrong. It is not a big deal to be wrong. And we stated a couple of things. And I didn't state. I asked questions, is what I did. But there was a couple of things like the buccal swab. Come to find out, was Brian's, his DNA swab that the police took from him. They have to list it on the search warrant. Okay, so I wanted to clear that up because it's important to be. I don't think there is a creator out there that has a channel that intentionally misrepresents anything, that purposely does it. I got bashed pretty bad about that, and that comes with the territory. Creators and channels get bashed every single day. Every single day. If it's not in the comments, it's in groups, it's in wherever. They're getting bashed every day. We've had our lives interrupted by people bashing. But like I said, I don't know of any channels that you purposely put out something that isn't true, or just to get, some put out. But I don't follow them. I only follow my little clique. You know what I'm saying? I only follow my little clique. Once in a while, I'll stray off and go see what's going on out there, and I add and subtract from my clique. But having a channel is a lot more work than I thought it would be. And I want people to know, these ones that are bashing, and I got bashed pretty bad in this one group, okay? And in this one person, like really bad. Put a picture of me up there and, whatever. Whatever turns their little fancy. I admit when I'm wrong. I don't have a problem with that. Do you? That's my question to them, because I don't have a problem with it. And I wasn't wrong. I just asked questions, and I don't think it was the people I had on this show. They had no intention of misleading anybody. Actually, I think they're probably getting tired of getting bashed on law enforcement's involvement in this Idaho case, okay, in the Moscow Idaho 4 case. I think they get tired of that. I do too. So he wanted to show that. One of them wanted to show that how that this DNA could be transferred so easily, and it can, and it is that it is plausible, very. without like having cover-ups and so forth. Do I agree with that? Done a lot of research in this case. And that's another thing people don't understand. I get about 3 to 4 hours of sleep at night. And that's the same with my producers, because we are so heavily involved in this case. My mind is spinning constantly and checking out and researching and looking at this and looking at that, digging. Do they have a right to go bash me? Oh, sure, they have a right. When you start slandering, that's another whole deal. You can make fun of me, I don't care. You start slandering me, better look out. Let's see, what else was there? There was one other thing here. What is it? Oh, yeah, there's no lab in Pullman. Washington State University does not have a lab. The labs are in Seattle, Tacoma, and Spokane. So, but did we purposely say? No, we did not. So, I know my crime family. I love you, by the way, and hello to everybody. I know you understand me really well. So, because I bet you guys get bashed too. I bet you my crime community gets bashed too. Not in my chat room, they don't. Because you come in here with that attitude, boop, you're out. You're gone. My mods take care of that real quick. So anyway, I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit. I think I've cleared up everything there, and now I want to get into. I was watching a couple videos here in the last couple of days here. It was actually yesterday, because I watch a lot, man. Oh my god! But these are the ones that I always pick the ones that are going to stick out to me. You know what I mean? And these two stuck out to me. You will find the links down in the description. Of course, I always give credit to where credit is due. All right, and this will be from Thought by Podcast, which everybody, if you remember, when they were really fresh and new, I was promoting them from like day one because I really like that channel, and I still do. Brendan and Malia do an excellent job on that channel. And then I got one from the Andrew Myers Law Firm again. That's quite interesting also. So I'm going to tie those together and see what we come up with. All right. And hello, my beautiful, beautiful crime family. I might be in chat, might not. I don't know. Depends on what time I get this done. Okay, so yeah. So we got this. That right. Here we go.
About that. All right, you guys. So the reason I'm going
to let this play for about 21 minutes. So I will interrupt it here and there just to let you know. Okay.
To bring this up is I have a few questions, and we are relating this topic to the Idaho 4 investigation, which, of course, if you know us, is Brian Koberger, the criminology student. And we want to dig into the possibility of there being police corruption. Now, it's interesting because, you know, there's a lot of topics out there that get labeled tin hat topics because they don't seem very likely. Okay. Here at Thought Riot, though, we don't want that to deter us from covering these topics, digging into it, finding out information, and seeing if this can hold water, seeing if it can hold weight on its own, seeing if it can stand on its own 2 feet. So, do police plant evidence? Is this something that actually happens?
Is it?
Is this something that police do for a specific reason? What is that reason? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Could it be happening in the Idaho 4? I'm not a person that's willing to jump off the cliff head first into a theory, idea, or opinion if I can't find anything to back that, you know? And even if we have evidence to back this, it doesn't necessarily mean it's happening in this case.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a few videos ago, we were on a debate, you know, talking back and forth about the possibility of the FBI being corrupt in this case and how I wasn't willing to look at that without evidence and didn't think it's very possible. And I mean, your opinion was very similar. You're just more likely to believe it based on some of the past evidence, which there isn't a right answer there, you know?
Yeah.
So I went digging. I wanted to know, how easy is it to find details, evidence of police corruption and police doing this? And I got to tell you, I expected to find some. I knew I was going to, but the amount I found was insane. I was not expecting that.
I did.
You're right on, Brendan.
I expect that.
It was an insane amount. Now, I'm definitely going to be honest about everything here. There were a lot of situations where when I was doing research, it looked like it could have been corruption, but then they were able to prove how it wasn't, type thing. Like what I mean by that, here's an example. There was an LAPD officer and they got pulled over and they took one person out of the car and did a search. They pulled a baggie out of his pants and threw it in the car. The other people in the car were recording this and said that cop's throwing a bag in here to set us up. But, and there was body cam footage from the other officer that's in the back. One, there was nothing incriminating in that bag.
Oh.
Yeah. And two, it came out of one of the people in the car's pocket and the officer was throwing it back in. He said, yeah, I just pulled it out of his pocket. I'm not going to hold it. So not corruption. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's important to look for these things, but there's a lot of valid, real, legitimate corruption.
Well, that's where body cams saved a police officer.
Agreed.
Body cams are good for everybody.
There's this idea that the community that bleeds blue, you know, for the police officers, that it's like an invasion of privacy. And when I hear that, I lose my
When
mind.
you're on duty, you don't have that right.
Yes, there is no police privacy. They are.
That's exactly right. I mean, we pay their salaries. There is no privacy. And actually, in my opinion, I think, you know, maybe they should run all the time. I don't know. That'd be a little ridiculous, but yeah, it's they are needed. They are definitely needed. And by the time this we're done with this video, you're going to see a lot more and why.
Ours. We own them. They are public servants. They are civil servants. They are here to serve the public. They don't deserve privacy in that regard.
Not on duty.
Not on duty.
Nope.
That job is not theirs. That job is ours, the people, and they've been gifted that job and have a duty to respect that job in the highest regard. So when we see issues here, and a good example is Baltimore. Baltimore is like the most corrupt police force ever. I think over half, or like 60 something % of them, have been convicted and are doing over 10 years. Like the amount of corruption in Baltimore was insane. But when you have that kind of corruption, how can you expect the rest of society in the US to trust them? That it's hard not to, you know? And we are going to have a story in this podcast too that is highlighting really great police work. Because again, I don't want to seem like I'm ever just attacking somebody, because I'm pro police. I am all for police, but I also believe there needs to be oversight and accountability around it. So do police plan?
I have to say, I am too. I don't want to seem like I'm attacking police all the time or anything like that. And I mean, my brother-in-law was a sheriff for 16 years. 16 years he was a sheriff in a pretty rugged county. And my brother was a deputy sheriff. So, you know, and I know, I grew up in a small town. I knew the police in this town. And trust me, they knew me. Was there corruption? Yes, there was. Yes, there was. And I could tell you stories. But overall, I mean, police are needed. Police are needed. And I'm not for like defunding police or anything like that. But I do believe they have to be held accountable for their actions, just like we would at a job or even out on the streets. We have to be held accountable, and so do they. And maybe, you know, I think, you know, since the George Floyd thing, I think a lot of police departments have cleaned up, but there's always room for improvement. Anyway.
Evidence. Okay. I have a couple examples here. 2015, North Charleston, South Carolina. Walter Scott was a forklift operator who had a warrant out for his arrest for missing a child support hearing. Okay.
Mhm.
Michael Slager was a police officer. When Slager stopped Scott for a broken brake light, he found out about the warrant and moved to arrest him. Scott ran, and the two briefly scuffled. When the officer pulled out his taser, hit him, when it didn't knock Scott down or out and he turned to run, Slager pulled out his gun and shot Scott 8 times. While Scott was running away.
Oh gosh.
Now, the corruption part. I mean, that is corruption right there. You're not supposed to. You're only supposed to engage in gunfire if your life is at risk or somebody in the public's life is at risk. Now, Scott claimed, or I'm sorry, Slager. Scott is the one who got shot. So Slager, the police officer, claimed Scott went to go grab his taser and his gun, or both. I think his statement was both. But there was a bystander. That bystander pulled out their phone and recorded the whole thing. So this is interesting here. This cop's statement got him off the hook. Everything was cleared. The shooting was cleared. Okay. The bystander that recorded this was terrified of what the police would do to him. So he held on to this for a while, ultimately giving it to the family of the victim, the one who got shot 8 times and died. That family came out and released the footage and proved he was running away. He never tried to grab the taser, never tried to grab his gun, never tried to come at him. He was running away.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, staging evidence, lying on a statement, that's awful. And this was just in 2015. Now in 1975 in Montgomery, Alabama, and this one again seemed like another open and shut case, but the police were searching the neighborhood for a suspect in a grocery store robbery, and they zeroed in on Bernard Whitehurst Jr. When they confronted him, Whitehurst reportedly pulled out a gun and aimed it at the officers. They returned fire, killing him with a single bullet to the chest. The shooting was quickly deemed justified when a gun was found at the scene. There was no autopsy, and Whitehurst was quickly buried. It seemed like an open and shut case, just like any other police shooting. It wasn't, though, and 6 months later, the entire case started to unravel. The Montgomery Advisory was one of the only newspapers to cover this case extensively. And alleges that the gun was planted, and many locals were starting to question the events. The police alleged that the paper was making up stories, and the publisher even agreed to take a polygraph test. The publisher of this paper agreed to take a polygraph test. 3 Montgomery officers were asked to polygraph, okay? You know what those 3 officers did? They quit.
Oh, gosh.
They quit. There was no gun at the scene. They shot this man in cold blood and then put a gun there. Yeah. And he wasn't even the suspect in that robbery.
Self-preservation.
He wasn't even the suspect in that robbery. So this is applicable to a lot of crimes out there. How did they zero in on him?
Right.
What caused the police officers to make the assumption that it was him?
It's important.
And what causes police officers today?
That is a huge key right there. Right there, because this is coming into play in this case. How and why? That's my questions for the day, because that's what Ann Taylor, if you look at what she's trying to get at, it's the how and why did you come up with Bryan Kohberger's name? How and why? We'll get into that a little more in a bit here.
To make that assumption that it is this suspect and not that one.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So July 2019, another pretty recent one, right? Deputy Zach Wester in Florida. Have you heard about this?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Deputy Zach Wester in Florida. A traffic stop with him would quickly turn to horror. Okay. So what he was doing is he would pull people over, question them, get them out of the car, and then make up a reason to search the car. He would quickly find drugs, usually always meth, and make an arrest. The people would go into the system. Many saw jail time or lost jobs, lost custody of their children.
Yeah.
Over several years, Westers seemed to have an uncanny ability to stop cars whose drivers were carrying small amounts of dope. This was an asset for a policeman, and anyone who watched him work was sure he was headed for a promotion. However, every single one was a lie. Over 100 times, this police officer did this. 100 times.
Why?
And we're talking
For a promotion?
I don't know.
Like, why meth every time?
We're talking people, I don't know that either. We're talking people who lived normal lives, were upstanding citizens in their communities, had normal jobs like doctors, lawyers, average people, getting targeted and pulled over by this police officer in 2019 in Florida and having dope
Planted
on them. Yes.
That's disgusting.
Lost kids,
That's crazy.
Lost
dude.
all kinds of things
That's
because of this.
That is a huge impact.
I'm not trying to say that all police departments are like this, or that every police officer is like this. But there is corruption. And I hate to say it, but look at Moscow's record, because their record is not very good. There is corruption there. And the research that I've done myself, I know who's involved. I know who's been involved in these corruption things. And when you have a case like this, and from the research that we've done, and you start finding out like there's fight clubs and there's, it makes you wonder, and it makes the old noggin start thinking, are they betting on people? What's the relation? What's the relation? Is there drugs involved? Why is there corruption like this in that town? Anyway, where are we at? Okay.
Impact from one police officer.
Massive. So he ended up getting over 20 years. Okay. 8 people were released from prison. Over 100 cases were thrown out. Over another 200 were looked into. And this goes to why. What is the point? You are a hindrance on society. You are costing the taxpayers money. You're costing the justice system money. You're costing it time. You're costing it resources. You're not helping.
You're making people not trust police officers.
Yes, and you're not even making a safer place to live.
You're destroying people's lives. You're taking kids away from parents and traumatizing them.
Think about people who have never done crime before in their life get pulled over by this guy and
get meth
have this happen, lose their kids, go to jail or get charged or whatever. And because of that, they lose their job. They turn to a life of crime. Like, I don't think that's that far-fetched to make the assumption.
And then you create a generational issue too.
Agreed. So you're making it overall less safe.
Yep.
So in Waukegan, Illinois, in August 1992, a woman called the police and reported that her home had been broken into and her children's 11-year-old babysitter, Holly Slacker, was missing. When police arrived, they found the girl's body in the house, stabbed to death. Evidence of SA was found, samples were taken, and a massive manhunt began. A prison informant fingered a fellow inmate. Interesting. Prison informant fingered a fellow inmate. Samples were taken, Puerto Rican-born Juan Rivera. Rivera cooperated from the beginning after he was fingered, was pointed out as being the suspect, and gave samples of his blood and DNA. While no physical evidence was found on site linking him to the crime, Rivera was held in custody where his mental condition began to deteriorate. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
His long nightmare was only beginning, too. Rivera was interrogated until he confessed. Interrogated until he confessed. He was quickly charged with first-degree murder and convicted despite evidence from his electronic ankle monitor showing that he never left home the night of the murder.
Gosh.
While his first conviction was overturned, his fate was sealed at his second trial by testimony of the child being babysat, who was 2 at the time. They came at him again.
These are so tragic.
He got this thrown out. The prosecution tried to convict him a third time.
What?
Yep. That eventually got thrown out. So this was over a 13-year period. Okay. He was incarcerated over a 13-year period, nonstop appeals. And the court system had to come out and make a special ruling saying they were not allowed to pursue prosecution again. Right. So to me, this feels like other areas of our justice system tainted. Why was the prosecution
Yeah, the prosecutor was
fighting this so
corrupt.
hard?
Yeah.
It feels like it, right? 2010 to 2018.
Wow.
Right. The next case is so Sergeant Wayne Jenkins was a prominent officer in Baltimore. Okay, this is what I was talking about. In Baltimore Police Department, head of the Gun Trace Task Force. So when one of his suspects wound up dead, run over by Jenkins' car while being arrested, most officers gave him the benefit of the doubt. He claimed that the suspect had pointed a gun at the car, so he ran over his head. The suspect pointed a gun at the car, so he ran over his head. Yep. So it says this gun turned out to be a BB gun, and that gave him the authority to take out the suspect by any means necessary. But all this started falling apart when Jenkins was arrested and convicted for a host of crimes committed using his position of power, including robberies, dealing drugs, setting up crime scenes, and 8 others were also included in this.
8 other police officers?
8 other police officers were also included in this. And not only did that guy who got ran over only have a BB gun, he didn't have a gun. Nothing.
Oh my gosh.
It was a setup. Complete and total setup. This officer murdered this man.
That's insane.
Last one, then we'll get into some questions. So 1990s, this was essentially almost a whole department. Okay. So New York State Trooper David L. Harding was an ambitious man, and he was looking to move up from the NYPD to the CIA. When he was asked in an interview if he was willing to break the law for his country, he didn't wait. He answered yes and proudly announced to the CIA that he had fabricated evidence to convict people he knew was guilty. As an officer, the CIA wasn't happy with this answer. They notified the Justice Department and an investigation began. And what they found was shocking. In central New York, a massive conspiracy of fraudulent convictions and falsified evidence had begun taking place for years. It had ruined people's lives. There were at least 2 false murder convictions. Another man shot and booked falsely. The police were lifting fingerprints from surfaces in the precinct.
Did you just hear that? What the hell? Lifting fingerprints from the precinct. And my question is, when was it that Brian applied to become a police officer? When did he go in there? I'm not saying that that's what happened, but it sounds like this kind of shit does happen. Unfucking believable.
To convict.
What?
So what they would do is they would bring a suspect into the police, have him touch something. They would lift the fingerprints from there and then submit it as evidence like they took it from the crime scene.
Right. That is.
All right. Wow. Just fucking wow. What the hell? What is wrong with people? And how often does this kind of crap go on? I can't even believe what I just heard. Totally unbelievable. very good work, Brendan and Malaya. Brendan, it looks like Brendan did most of that research there. Very good. Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, that's just, dang it. Okay, we're going to get into the DNA. And since that was mentioned, now do you know why? Do you people out there, you guilters, do you understand why Ann Taylor keeps asking, where did you get the name Bryan Kohberger? Where did it start? Do you see now what that angle is? The how and the why. And the where. Where did it come from? Yeah, I wonder. These are things that make you go, what the hell? It's not right. Anyway, I got to keep moving here. This is the next one, and it's Law Office of Andrew Myers. And I know we enjoy this channel. Very good channel. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do here. And this is going to touch on DNA. The links for both of these will be down below in the description. I highly recommend, if you don't have them, if you're not subscribed to these channels, to subscribe to them, because these are two really good. These are two really good channels.
Andrew, come on, get over here. The podcast is about to start.
I'm busy taking notes on this Kohberger case.
We have to start the podcast right now or the internet's going to give up. What are you doing?
Well, I'm keeping notes. I have some interesting points about the Kohberger case. I have 5 notes about the Kohberger case that I want to share.
Well, get your butt over here. Let's go through them. You thought it couldn't be done, but as you just saw, we have Andrew on deck making 5 more notes about the Kohberger case. And spoiler alert, we're going to be going over some DNA points. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
On this episode of About the Law, we're going to be diving into what Andrew could have possibly been late to the podcast doing. Andrew, what took you so long? How did we get to this point?
Well, people have asked me, 5 more points every week. How can you possibly do that? Well, like I've said before, there's hundreds of things that just make us scratch our heads about this case. And in taking a look at it a little bit more deeply, I found a bunch of other things, and I've been keeping notes. So let's take a look at 5 more notes that I've taken on this case, and things that just really are kind of, we'll just say, interesting. And one of them is, they've always said DNA is so important to this case. And in fact, we had a commenter that said, the DNA was in that place, case closed, stop the games. Well, it's not a game. People are entitled to the presumption of innocence until found guilty. And in this case, the DNA is not as exact as of a science as people would like to lead you to believe. Do you believe that, Lainey?
I kind of agree with you in that sense. I'm not a forensic analysis, but I've definitely heard some questionable things about touch DNA and how it could be spread around from person to person.
Well, let's take a look at 2 things. First of all, here's what the probable cause affidavit said. It said, once law enforcement had single source DNA from the K-bar knife sheath, they conducted what is called short tandem repeat, or STR analysis. STR-DNA analysis involves looking at 20 regions within the human DNA and allows law enforcement to make direct comparisons between two STR-DNA profiles. Law enforcement submitted the STR-DNA profile obtained from the K-bar knife sheath to the Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, database of STR-DNA profiles from convicted offenders, arrestees, and crime scene evidence to identify the source of the DNA. No match was found. And so they had to go on. And of course, after they found Mr. Kohlberger, they, took a swab from him. And then they say that they linked that to what is purportedly to be touch DNA on the snap of the knife sheath that was found next to or under Madison Mogen. Well, they say it's an exact science, but let's take a look at something that tells us that is it really an exact science? Here's an article from an institute called the International Journal of Molecular Sciences. And it's relatively recent. And it says, collection and interpretation of touch DNA from crime scenes represent crucial steps during criminal investigations. Of course, we all know that, with clear consequences in the courtrooms. Although the main aspects of this type of evidence have not been extensively studied, some controversial issues remain. For instance, there is no conclusive evidence indicating which sampling method results in the highest rate of biological material discovery. So we're not going to go through all of that because there are different methods of collecting it, and they're saying it's controversial because it is not a settled science, all right? So here's the introduction. Touch DNA can be defined as DNA transfer. By the way, whenever you have a conversation with somebody who feels that they're smarter than you, they'll say, oh, no, it's not touch DNA, it's transfer DNA. Don't you know that? Well, according to the experts here, the touch DNA can be defined as DNA transferred from a person to an object via contact with the object itself. In the literature, this form of evidence also has been called contact DNA, trace DNA, or transfer DNA. So don't let people BS you by saying, oh, that's not what it is, it's this. So there's different terms for it, just to start our discussion here about DNA. The nature of this type of genetic material is still the subject of ongoing scientific debate, which expresses the lack of knowledge in the present forensic field. So if you think that, DNA is DNA, the end of story, However, touch DNA samples are generally known to contain low levels of DNA and the presence of degraded genetic material. Degraded genetic material, regardless of its origin, makes genotype detection challenging. Degraded DNA is not the only component of touch deposits that can compromise forensic profiling. The presence of small amounts of genetic material available, sometimes even below the minimum thresholds of modern, highly sensitive commercial STR kits, is another phenomenon commonly found in contact samples. And so they go through the fact that, the sample that is a touch sample has to be collected, and then the DNA is extracted and quantified and amplified. And then there's a step called fragments sequencing. So for all of you scientists out there that want to tell us this is an exact science and it's simple, bada bing, bada boom, this process is there, and the process has to be followed perfectly. And guess who does the process? It's human beings. Laboratory methods employed also affect the success of touch DNA analysis. In other words, what's done in the laboratory affects the success of the touch DNA analysis. Let me rephrase that in other words. You've got to do everything correctly in the lab in order for that to be accurate. As can be inferred from the above, numerous factors influence touch DNA's effectiveness as a forensic tool. Thus, we present here a brief review regarding the current state of knowledge on touch DNA analysis, which tells us all that this is an evolving science. It is not a slam, bam, it's done. as can be inferred from this article, numerous factors influence touch DNA's effectiveness as a forensic tool. So what that means is there's a lot of different things that go into making sure that that DNA, which is going into court, is accurate. And so we go into more about the process. And this report actually took a look at something like 27 different studies and reports and kind of compiled them all. And here they are. You know, did this method work? Did that method work? The use of direct PCR with touch DNA from bullet casings detected more problems than just DNA extraction. And they go into some very highly technical stuff, which I've given you the name of this article, so you can go check it out. But you know, I guarantee you that we will all fall asleep, including the scientists in the article, if we read all of that small print. So that's why I am going down to page 15, I believe, where they bring us to the conclusion that the collection of useful touch DNA evidence cannot prescind the selection of an appropriate sampling method. In other words, getting accurate touch DNA evidence has to go along with an appropriate sampling method. According to the studies examined in this review, and this review, like I said before, I think it goes over 27 different international studies on touch DNA, it is nowadays possible to obtain satisfactory results. Notice it didn't say perfect results. It said satisfactory results from the analysis of LC-DNA, depending on the recovery technique used. So there's a question about on cross-examination, there's a good question on the recovery technique, which technique was used, but also how it was done and was the protocol followed. However, almost all articles revealed that further research is needed on the impact of using different methodologies to collect samples to determine the most effective collection method. More comprehensive knowledge of detecting a profile based on the type of object and its history, identifying the most appropriate areas to target for DNA sampling, and the impact of additional factors such as duration, frequency, and manner of contact is required. Further research is required. Being able to know, harmonize, and improve these aspects would definitely strengthen the value of DNA evidence in the courtrooms. This tells us that further research is needed in this touch DNA science in order to equivocate what's going on some touch DNA sample and the forensics that are ultimately being produced in court. So I found that really interesting. Lady, do you have a take on that, or should we move on to number 4?
Well, I do want to say it is something that is hard to conceptualize for myself, and a lot of people. Correct me if you think that anything I'm saying is incorrect. But with human beings, from my understanding, all human beings are 99% identical in DNA. So the fact that they're able to get this science down and see things like you can't even see, like when we have dust, it's like our skin cells and things like that. So it's something that you're not able to see with the human mind. So it is a really deep, in-depth science, but at the same time, like Andrew mentioned, this is something that people are doing, and you can touch something and then touch something else, or you hold on to somebody else's belongings and you're getting that DNA on it, and you can transfer, touch DNA through so many different ways that, like you said, it's humans doing it, mistakes happen, and there's a lot of different components to go out with it. I am curious to see in the future now, with the rise of technology and AI, what that's going to do for the technology. But from my understanding right now, it's not precise and it's not perfect. So
Exactly. Good catch on that. And I think I don't want to belabor the point because from reading the comments that we have gotten, and we're going to read some later. Many of our viewers are very intelligent and very perceptive and know a lot about this stuff. So we're going to move on to the other thing. But I mean, everybody I think knows that we're not talking about a full, credible, excellent sample of DNA, which comes from body fluids, including blood and spit and other body fluids. We're dealing with, somebody touched something maybe only once. So that's what we're dealing with. It is not contrary to what we've heard. It's not an exact science. That brings us to note number 4. There we go. And that is
Okay, I got to stop right there because touch DNA and transfer DNA, you don't have to touch the item. You can shake somebody's hand and that person touch that item and it goes and it transfers. That's why it's called touch transfer DNA. And from what I understand, they did not have a full profile. They did not have a full profile. So I wanted to clear that up. This is also interesting. Okay. I'm just going to display a little.
the Hyundai Elantra. We all know that in the probable cause affidavit that law enforcement was initially looking for a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra.
Okay. I'm going to stop it right here because there's something to look at here. Because this right here is not Brian's car. I'm telling you right now, it is not Brian's car. Here's a 2011 Hyundai Elantra. Okay, here's a 2015, like Mr. Kohlberger's. Look at right here. This might not even be a god dang Elantra. Where is it? Where is this? Where is it? You see how this is bigger and goes up here? It's not there. It's not there. And Brian's doesn't have dark tinted windows. This is not Brian's car. And the thing with this is, you know, and this was going the wrong way for one thing. And this had a sunroof. This is not Brian's car. And the thing is, this is the only picture that we've gotten. They haven't showed us. Let me get out of here. They haven't showed us. All right. They have not showed us any other pictures from any other cams. So we've tackled corruption. How? Why? Where'd that DNA come from? And that's why Ann's asking. Where, you know, the hows and the whys. Where did it begin? How did you get his name? How did you get his name? They don't want to answer that. They don't. That's fact. That is fact. And everything shown on today's video is fact. They're going to have a hell of a time because they really do not have a lot of evidence. They don't. People say, "Oh, DNA," like that lawyer said. It isn't that strong of a case. Not when it's touched DNA. And they didn't even have a full profile. It seems to me that things are trying to get swept under a rug. They're trying to jam it down everybody's throat. And then all the investigative research that we've done hints, and I'm not scared to say it, that there is corruption somewhere. Does it go to the prosecution? I don't know. I don't know, but they sure do not want to cooperate with the defense. They're being forced to. But how long is this going to go on? The charade. How long is this going to go on? And that is the question. Anyway. Yeah. We do get wrapped up in this. And We just want justice. And we want justice just as much as the folks that the guilters. Actually, maybe we want it even more. Because we're getting off our ass and researching, not just listening to mainstream media. I love you guys. I surely do. And I hope everybody's having a great day. The weekend. To me, it seems like a weekend. My hours are so screwed up. It's unbelievable. And it's all because of this case. So anyway, I don't know. I'm going to leave a long outro, as I've done before, and I always do when I run these videos. I'm going to leave it nice. It's already over an hour, and I didn't want to go that long, so I'll leave it a little bit long, a little bit. And anyway, you guys all have a good day, and until next time, rock and roll.
Baby, please don't leave me. Oh, baby, don't you go. 'Cause when you walk out on the road, daddy, said it's a long and lonely road. And if you think I'm just gonna sit and watch you go, and you, oh baby, you get her wrong. 'Cause I tried to love you better. Even then I love myself. Oh Lord, no. Don't you do it to me, daddy. 'Cause I need you with no one else. And I can't stand, I just can't stand the thought of you with somebody else. Oh baby, can't you see? Hey, you gotta be under your spell. Hey, because I try. said it's a long and lonely road, and I can't stand it. I just can't stand to let you walk out that door. Oh, baby, can't you see? No matter how much she loves you, hey, I love you more. Honey, I try, I try, I try, I try, I try. Lord, I try to love you better, to love you better. Well, darling, please, please, come back to me, baby. I need you, baby, need you, baby. Oh, don't leave me, baby. Please don't leave me, baby. Please don't
Well, I hear that train coming, it's coming around the bend, and I ain't seen sunshine since I don't know when. Yeah, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time is rolling on. And I hear that lonesome whistle way down in San Antonio. Well, when I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always get a good boy, don't ever play with guns. Yeah, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. And when I hear that long whistle, I hang my head and cry. And I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking whiskey and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. And I hear that long whistle, and that's what tortures me. Torture me, child. Yeah, I bet there is folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking whiskey and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. And the people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Well, if they free me from this prison, if they're ever transplant, you know I'll pick it all up, move it farther down the line. Find some folks in prison is where I long to be. And then people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Yeah, the people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Yeah. Thank you. We are going.